Elden Ring is a beast of a game. A lush and expansive open world. A boatload of unique spells and weapons. Hundreds of bosses. A whole lot of multiplayer options and one of the best online communities. Nevertheless, it kinda confuses me. Or at least it confused me. I've been in constant turmoil trying to figure out how its mechanics reinforce its story. 2 whole years of 100% completion, dual-wielding pizza cutters, and watching multiple hour-long lore videos. But today I think I've got it. An answer so incredibly optimistic that it eluded my cynical persona for 306 hours. Do note that I am biased, both politically, spiritually, and how I perceived the given media. I hope you enjoy. Dark Souls has ended up being the template to which FromSoftware's other games can extrapolate and enhance their themes out of. That template includes, but is not limited to, a series of checkpoints that, when rested at, respawn enemies and replenish your healing items. A sprawling world layout with a Metroidvania-style locked doors. An intense but rewarding combat system. Strange online mechanics that allow you to receive help or to be invaded. And the ability to leave a difficult situation and return more powerful. This is the template that I will be referring to, and it is with the manipulation of this template to which a game can enhance their themes. For theme enhancement, Bloodborne is the best example of this, but I don't have a capture card, so Dark Souls 2 will have to do. In Dark Souls 2, the world of the previous game has been stretched so far forwards in time that the very land beneath your feet has begun to forget itself. The design of these levels stretch all known laws of physics that it has become non-Euclidean. Enemies disappear after you've killed them too many times, as if the world as a whole forgot of their existence. By adapting the Dark Souls template, Dark Souls 2 shows you a world ridden with dementia. The biggest changes to the template in Elden Ring create a theme of cooperation. This comes in the readily accessible spirit summons and the ease to which a player can summon cooperative players. Spirit summons and other players serve the same purpose, more damage output and distractions. When summoning another player, the health of the enemy is increased. However, that other player is often way more competent than even the strongest summon. Yet spirit summons provide help to those who play offline, and does not carry the risk of being invaded. The resources required to summon spirits or another player are easily available. Most spirits cost FP. However, one of the most powerful summons, yourself, can be summoned at the cost of health, something that most players will have plenty of in the late game. To summon another player, a furl-calling finger remedy is needed. These can be crafted out of Erdtree flowers, a resource that respawns after resting at a grace, making it essentially infinite. Cooperation has never been easier. The idea of cooperation even extends to the design of the bosses. Never in all other iterations of the Dark Souls template has so many bosses contained such excessive and unending combo attacks. A flurry of attacks directed at the player, forcing you to either get stunned to death or retreat until the combo is over. However, with the use of a spirit summon or a cooperative player, these attacks can become more manageable. When the boss is in a combo attack, it is directed at only one being, leaving another to retaliate from behind. This allows for some clever play. While one player is knocked down to a quarter health, you can come in to get the boss's attention and let your dying companion heal. Elden Beast has a swiping projectile. This can be easily dodged, but the boss can be a cheeky little thing, switching targets to whoever's closest, keeping the players on their toes. Its ring jumping attack also attacks whoever's closest, since the beast is so large and moves such great distances. Whoever's closest becomes the target, instead of whoever attacked last. This gives more experienced summoned players the ability to get the attention of the beast by getting close and acting recklessly, which gives the host some breathing room. With cooperation in mind, the bosses were given some of the largest AoE attacks. No game that preceded Elden Ring included such giant attacks which covered the whole arena. With bosses designed for a single player, there is no point to cover this much ground, as not only is this a consistent design throughout the game, but spirit summons and online cooperation come from an essentially infinite pool of resources. The bosses are less designed by their ability to provide a good fight for the single player, but more defined by their abilities to enhance cooperation. All of these attacks create unique situations to which careful and well-positioned cooperation extend and enhance the experience of fighting bosses. I've come to this conclusion because I've played the other games, except Sekiro, and I've found Elden Ring's bosses to be such a drastic change from the other games.
What a sick way to fight, eh?
The bosses in Dark Souls 3, the game which I ended up doing a whole lot of cooperation for, are nowhere near as suited for multiple players. Many, if not all of the older bosses become trivial with cooperation. In my time helping players in Dark Souls 3, the bosses can be consistently killed, including the most difficult of the game. This is not the case for Elden Ring. These bosses have larger health pools, stronger attacks, and some of the largest AoE attacks within these games. This creates a thoroughly less trivial experience when cooperation is involved, and in turn, a more compelling fight for all parties. Elden Ring, with a focus on cooperative play, turns bosses into nightmares for single players. The rampant use of extensive combo attacks turns the fight into more of a waiting game, where the player must sit around until the attack is finished, or get stun-locked to death. This is almost antithetical to the older boss designs, as a majestic dance between player and enemy. Fate is everywhere in the lands between, as it is destined for you to become Elden Lord. This is ordained by the two fingers, in the guidance of grace. This is a physical aspect of the world, manifesting in beams of gold, guiding us to various destinations. These beams do not follow a linear path, as some exist just for the player to gain power.
In Marika's own words, "Hark, brave warriors. Hark, my Lord Godfrey. We commend your deeds. Guidance hath delivered ye through each ordeal to the place ye stand."
There are the effigies of Marika, which serve to connect the players to others willing to help, and the stakes of Marika, that allow the Tarnished to respawn closer to areas of interest. I do not find it a coincidence that these both take the form of Marika. It is as if her power to manifest the player and others is an act of either goodwill or to encourage the Tarnished to hold on to their faith, not only in themselves but in the others around them. I will not claim to know the entire storyline of this game, but there are certain aspects of the endings which I would like to point out. I do not find it a coincidence that the two bad endings contain some form of cannibalism. The defiled corpses of the Dung Eater have some oddly positioned wounds, and in pursuit of the madness ending, we end up feeding human eyeballs to a blind woman. Cannibalism is unique in its ability to transform the human body into material. It turns an individual into a resource for power, a dehumanizing act. The madness ending in particular exudes these ideas. Firstly, Vike chose madness to save his maiden. But did he do this to save her, or to keep her? It is Melina's purpose to use her body as kindling, and by choosing yourself instead, you are stripping her of her own purpose.
Though they were reduced to gluttonous depravity.
Shabriri, in the stolen body of Yura, says,
Your ascendancy,
requires her sacrifice, whether she wishes it or not. But how would the Lord, crowned so, be looked upon?
As if Melina's sacrifice would hurt your public image. The other endings are more built around helping people, or providing the lands between with a better future. Cooperation is fun. Gestures, vocal pumpkins, and the classic shield wiggle create a bond between the players. A kind of cute language unique to the Souls games. While you are using the other players to gain strength, it is important to note that these players are offering their summon signs of their own volition.
The government is once again instructing you to stay at home.
Act now to protect public health.
Putting that ring around the outbreak, the sooner we're able to do that, the higher confidence we can have.
COVID-19 was an incredibly isolating event. It held us indoors and trapped us on the internet. However, it is hard to know how much it impacted the development of Elden Ring. What we do know is that it was designed for more people to beat it. Hidetaka Miyazaki said in a PlayStation interview, "In Elden Ring, we have not intentionally tried to lower the game's difficulty, but I think more players will finish it this time. As I mentioned, the player's level of freedom to progress through the world, or return to a challenge later, are all elements that I feel will help people get through the game at a more leisurely pace. Also, there isn't a focus on pure action. The player has more agency to dictate their approach against, for example, the field bosses in the overworld and how they utilize stealth in various situations, to enjoy it in multiplayer. So we hope the players embrace that idea of receiving help from others, and we feel like the overall clear rate will go up this time because of these things. COVID may not have directly influenced Elden Ring, but the game nevertheless came out in an incredibly introverted world. The ability to help strangers is a rewarding event. A study done on the interactions between strangers found that strangers provide a unique way of interactions. The stranger is part of a rather large community. When and where you meet one, it is easy to assume that generally their position in the society is somewhat equal to yours. Until you acknowledge their existence, they may as well be a part of the masses. But in interaction, they become individuals. The current research showed that simply taking a moment to greet, express good wishes, or say thank you to a stranger is linked with a greater happiness in everyday life. Study 1 provided correlational evidence that commuters who reported engaging in such minimal positive social interactions with shuttle drivers experienced greater subjective well-being, namely greater life satisfaction and positive affect. Study 2 provided experimental evidence that commuters who thanked, greeted, or expressed their good wishes to shuttle drivers experienced greater momentary positive effect than those who did not speak with the drivers. Another similar article states, "What can a familiar stranger, whom one regularly sees on the bus or train, add to one's life?" Many readers' gut feeling maybe not so much, but closer reflection suggests that strangers help serve basic needs, such as feeling connected and appreciated, perhaps along with realization of personal growth. In short, it may take a village of strangers to achieve all things one can never accomplish by oneself. And that was where the video ended, but then the DLC came out and, well, my mind has changed. I planned for this video to go out before the release of the DLC, and then make a video discussing the themes of that. It came out, I got addicted, and now that I'm here, I don't think the DLC has enough to warrant its own video. I do not mean to disregard the added content. It is by far one of the greatest DLCs in the history of video games. What it did instead was elucidate the themes already present in the base game. There will be spoilers from here on out, but it is only a small amount, and all of it can be found early on in the DLC. The story being derived from the mind of George R.R. Martin, nevertheless follow his interests. Game of Thrones holds a large cast of conniving scoundrels, who all have their own varied interests, which cause major collateral damage. These stories are full of various intricate details, and follow the wide-ranging effects of the decisions that the people in power make. This is his thing, this is what interests him. While the stories in the previous Souls-like games do hold characters and events very similar to the aspects of Martin's storytelling, however, those previous stories were built up around the mechanical systems within the template. Inevitably, I ended up ignoring this fact while I wrote this essay, because I loved the way the previous games tied aspects of their respective stories with the gameplay. And I just assumed this would be the same for Elden Ring. This was why I was so confused, as I was looking for the mechanical connections similar to that of the older titles. However, I do believe that the boss fights were built around either a spirit summon or a cooperative partner, and helping other players is still an enjoyable aspect of the game. What ended up changing was my own perspective on Marika. The various manifestations of her body in the form of stakes of Marika and the summoning pools all exist to provide the player with support. It is as if she is helping us. However, she is still a creation of George R.R. Martin. She may be helping us, yet she is nevertheless doing so as an independent person with her own history, beliefs, and political aspirations. She called for her own child, Mesmer, to start a crusade. This crusade ended with the fires of Mesmer scorching the land, creating the charred ghosts and the general destruction of the Land of Shadows. That is to say, instead of us helping Marika and Marika helping us, we are more working towards the petty squabbles of extremely powerful beings in the service of their wacky tirades.
The conceits, the hypocrisy of the world built upon the Erdtree, the follies of men, their bitter suffering. Is there no hope for redemption? The answer, sadly, is clear. There never was any hope. They were each of them defective, unhinged from the start. Marika herself, and the fingers that guided her.